Today we are talking about the Pokemon live action musical, otherwise known simply as Pokemon Live. And if the existence of a Pokemon musical isn't enough for you, just wait until you hear some of the actual plot of the show. Because of all of the things in the Pokemon universe to write a story about, not only did they place a weird emphasis on a romance between Ash and Misty, and not only does Ash's Pokedex come to life to sing a song about Pokemon, and not only did critics tear into the musical calling it too erotic, but we find out that Ash's mom is one of the founders of Team Rocket and Giovanni's ex-girlfriend.
You can meet Brock, Misty, Ash, and of course Pikachu as the action hits the stage at the Fox Theater. Wanna catch 'em all? Gotta catch it live. Pokemon Live.
This show was on Broadway. Like I said, it's bizarre, but to actually understand the significance of a Pokemon musical and how in the hell this dumpster fire got greenlit in the first place, we have to take a small trip back in time to the year 2000.
What kind of Pokemon are you? How do you do the things you do? Share with me your secrets deep inside.
Now, to add some context, Pokemon Live toured in the United States and Canada from September in the year 2000 to January 2001, and toured internationally in the Middle East, Mexico, Belgium, and Portugal throughout 2002. Originally, the show was also supposed to tour in the United Kingdom, but was mysteriously cancelled last minute due to unforeseen circumstances. But of course, many upset fans and bloggers made sure to note that unforeseen circumstances was secretly code for this didn't sell enough tickets. Because objectively, even as a massive Pokemon fan myself who loves this franchise, the musical is real bad. Arrivederci! But of course that's coming from me in the year 2025. Back in the year 2000, the Pokemon Renaissance was just beginning in America. This was just 1 year after the original Pokemon series had finished airing and Ash Ketchum was currently journeying through the Orange Islands. The year prior in 1999 also saw the first theatrical release of Pokemon the First Movie in the West, and we were just a couple months off from the July release of Pokemon the Movie 2000. And Pokemon Gold and Silver, the long-awaited sequels to the first game, were announced for a release in that November. This was the year Pokemon was at the peak of its popularity and was dominating almost every medium, so how could a musical fail? Well, for one, the musical wasn't an adaptation of the games, and it wasn't even an original story. The producers had made the choice to adapt what was arguably the most popular Pokemon media at the time, the Pokemon anime. Sort of how, like the sponsor of today's video, Marvel Strike Force adopts all of your favorite comic book heroes into a game. Now, if you've ever tuned into one of my live streams, and you should by the way, you probably know that I am a massive comic book fan. And of course, that extends to games. Marvel Strike Force is a free mobile squad RPG that allows you to create a team of your favorite Marvel characters, heroes, and villains alike to save the universe from threats like Doctor Doom and Apocalypse. From there, power up your characters to take on game modes like Campaigns, Arena, and Blitz. If you're a new player, you can unlock up to 17 total characters in the first 30 days. Growing up, I was always obsessed with X-Men, but after watching the latest Fantastic Four movie, I've been doing a lot of reading up on Marvel's first family. And clearly, I wasn't the only one who was excited. This month, Marvel Strike Force is giving away the full Fantastic Four team for free for a limited time. Make sure to use the promo code MSF4 to unlock Mr. Fantastic, Invisible Woman, The Thing, and Human Torch in-game. Now here's the thing, the Fantastic Four are all solid characters. They'll be able to help you cruise through the early games and make sure you're set up for success in the actual PvP modes like Arena and Alliance War. But don't wait, because the code MSF4 is only going to work until September 30th, 2025. So don't wait, make sure to check out the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen right now to download Marvel Strike Force yourself so you too can save the world. But for now, let's get back to the year 2000. As I said earlier, it was an interesting time when Pokemania was just starting to grab hold of the West.
Pokemon is now in full mania. It's the biggest thing from Japan since the Power Rangers.
If you guys don't know what Pokemon is, you are, well, you're in need of some serious remedial toy education.
Just how long will this fad last?
Such enthusiasm has driven the stock of one toy maker up 50%. It's a unique property in that both boys and girls are attracted to it.
The video game and Pokemon the trading card as must-sees and must-haves.
Well, I guess no end in sight for Pokemon.
No, there's a lot of money too.
Exactly.
If you slapped Pikachu's face onto something, it would almost undoubtedly print money. You could do no wrong, unless you accidentally suffocate suffocated a bunch of kids, Burger King. But of course, one of the companies that was profiting the most from Pokemon's popularity was 4Kids Entertainment, who of course would go on to create the infamous Pokemon musical we are talking about today. So stick with me, because understanding 4Kids is essential to understanding why Pokemon Live was such a raging dumpster fire. Now, depending on your familiarity with anime, as well as if you have officially reached UNC status, you may know 4Kids as a fairly infamous brand. See, their business model was fairly simple. Take media franchises that were popular in Japan, dub it over in English, make some cultural changes that would make it more friendly towards young Western audiences, and boom, instant profit. I mean, where else would you be able to see notable pirate Monkey D. Luffy and Sonic the Hedgehog sing the American national anthem?
And now, the stars of 4Kids will sing the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see?
But most famously, the distributor struck gold in 1998 by gaining the television broadcast rights to air Pokemon media outside of Japan, which, needless to say, went very well for them. In the year 2000, a lot of families, including mine, still had a huge stigma against video games.
So Pokemon is a game that teaches children how to enter into the world of witchcraft.
And while that may have been true to some degree, it meant that a lot of kids didn't get Game Boys for Christmas. However, a lot of parents had no issues with letting their kids watch cartoons, which is where 4Kids began to thrive. The issue is, in hindsight, a lot of the cultural changes 4Kids made to the show were outright bizarre. Of course, there is some good changes. The iconic original Pokemon theme song, that's all 4Kids. And the 4Kids original name Ash Ketchum is probably more well known than the Japanese counterpart Satoshi. But then there are the changes that don't make as much sense. 4Kids felt the need to make cultural and localization changes since most young Western audiences would not understand the numerous references to Japanese culture that were present in the show. Which makes sense on paper, but they famously went as far as to change rice balls to jelly donuts, but didn't actually put in the work to make animation changes, which led to this infamous moment.
Have a donut. That always cheers me up. Pika pika!
These donuts are great! Jelly-filled are my favorite! Nothing beats a jelly-filled donut.
In addition, many episodes were outright removed and prevented from airing due to having quote-unquote too many adult themes. The Pokemon anime was also considered not funny enough for American children, and so they inserted puns and jokes until the script was full of them.
Hey, I know! I'll use my trusty frying pan as a drying pan!
Most notably, however, 4Kids didn't believe that American children would get invested into a story about lovable creatures having battles unless there was a heavy romance between Ash and Misty, who, keep in mind, are 10 years old, but we'll talk about that more when we get to the musical. All of this aside though, no one can really deny the influence 4Kids had in popularizing the Pokemon franchise in the West. However, many fans, including myself, have actually called into question how much the 4Kids executives knew about Pokemon as a brand, or even just knew about Pokemon at all. A lot of the 4Kids original Pokemon segments that were usually quizzes or trivia often included obvious errors, such as saying Seviper was an evolution of Arbok. This would be clearly incorrect to just anyone who had ever played the games or even watched the show they were airing. And all of these changes, both the good and the bad, are usually accredited to one man, Norman J. Grossfeld, the president of 4Kids, eventual father of the Pokemon musical, and executive producer for both the Pokemon anime in America and many of their theatrical releases in the West. Grossfeld is also credited as the sole person who came up with Pokemon's English catchphrase, "Gotta catch 'em all." Now, in addition to repackaging Eastern media for a younger Western audience, Grossfeld had a second great passion in life, and that was music. In addition to running 4Kids and doing several minor voice acting roles in their shows, Norman also wrote several of the songs for various anime and programming that aired on the channel. This includes Yu-Gi-Oh! Sonic X and the theme song for Kirby Right Back At You, which is an underrated gem that you all should watch. But of course, he also wrote a ton of music for, you guessed it, Pokemon. One day, Norman and the wizards over at 4Kids had just an insane idea. What if we recorded an entire music album of songs about Pokemon using the voice actors from the show? Because Grossfeld was the president of 4Kids at the time, it was greenlit, and just 3.5 weeks later, which is such a short amount of time, they had scrapped together the Pokemon 2BA Master album. This album included hits such as What Kind of Pokemon Are You?, Misty's Song, Double Trouble, and my favorite Pokemon (parentheses) dance mix. But the crazy part of it all is it was successful. The album sold out in stores everywhere and went gold in the United States. That meant that they sold 500,000 copies, and keep in mind, this was before Spotify or even iTunes existed. 500,000 people went physically to a store and bought a Pokemon CD or cassette tape. Like I said, if you slapped Pikachu's face on something, it was gonna make money. But with the first Pokemon album being such a massive success, Norman Grossfeld had an even bigger idea. If an album could make so much money, I wonder how well a full-length Pokemon musical could do.
And the one genre that we hadn't gone into yet that we always wanted to go into was a stage show. So this felt like the right time.
So guess if you don't recognize these guys right here, you probably don't have kids. Pokemon characters are going to be spending a lot of time in the Big Apple. Take a peek at this.
As goofy as it sounds nowadays, not helped by the fact I'm making a video about how it crashed and burned, the idea for a Pokemon musical wasn't so far-fetched in the year 2000. In 1997, just 3 years prior, The Lion King debuted on Broadway to both critical and financial success, becoming an overnight phenomenon. This was another musical that had been adapted from children's media and made heavy use of puppets for fantastical creatures. And with the absolute juggernaut of the Pokemon brand behind it, as well as recycling several already made songs from the successful To Be a Master album, it almost seems like the musical was set up for success from the beginning. How could it go wrong? Well, for one, the plot. It may surprise you to hear that the Pokemon musical wasn't actually about Pokemon at all, and instead focused on the human characters, which made it so that many fans of the franchise left theaters utterly bewildered and confused. Grossfeld had enlisted experienced children's playwright Michael Slade to adapt Pokemon to the stage, and while interviewing with Game Informer in 2016, Slade admitted that he knew almost nothing about Pokemon while writing it, other than the fact that Pikachu sure did exist.
Oh, I want to, get this gig thing. I said, oh, I know all about Pokemon. Pikachu, of course. And the fact of the matter was, other than that word, that was the extent of my Pokemon knowledge.
Maybe this is the reason that the show, instead of focusing on Pokemon, the bright, colorful creatures that shoot lightning and fire that children adore, the musical instead focuses on interpersonal drama between Ash and his companions, most notably that Ash forgot Misty's birthday and he didn't get her a present. Oh no.
I meant we were supposed to go to the movies for my birthday, which was 3 weeks ago.
You did promise.
But you forgot all about it.
Instead of spending time with his friends and family, Ash is focused on earning a brand new secret gym badge, the Diamond Badge, which has appeared out of nowhere. Misty, who is revealed has a major crush on Ash, is torn up about this, singing multiple romantic ballads about the subject. It's also worth noting that despite Mew appearing on stage for this song, they do not play an active role in the musical or appear again. They were just sort of floating there during this performance, which once again confused many fans who know the significance of the mythical Pokemon. This was rectified in the international touring of the show, where they just all around removed Mew from the song. Because the last thing Pokemon fans would want on stage at the Pokemon musical were Pokemon, after all. As the musical moved on from its opening and tween drama, many parents, children, and just overall fans got even more confused by the musical's plot, as it placed a heavy emphasis on Delilah, Ash's mom.
Mom, you don't kiss Pokemon trainers.
You do when they're your little boy.
Mom.
When they're your son. Ugh. But you'll always be my widow boy.
Ash's mom, who was a fairly minor character in the cartoon, was now placed in a literal spotlight on the big stage. Delilah laments to Professor Oak, in song of course, that she feels that her and Ash's relationship is shifting as her son grows more and more obsessed with Pokemon training.
You risk it all.
Just a part of life.
It's possible that this entire plotline was a way to appeal to the many parents in the audience, who were no doubt dragged by their adolescent children to see the show. However, this does not seem to have worked, as many critics noted that the 3 random dancers who were present during Delilah's song, who are not Pokemon by the way, were overly erotic and blatantly out of place. One critic notes, "I don't think these are the thoughts that parents would want their children having about Pokemon." Little did they know that just 7 years later, the Pokemon Company would introduce Lopunny. Many children in the audience would also find themselves bored and falling asleep, because not only is this segment 7 minutes long, but it doesn't feature a single Pokemon. Many of the show's other attempts to appeal to children with Pokemon and humor seem to fall flat.
Who are we? Team Rocket! Can you hear them? Barely. Who are we? Team Rocket!
These examples included a segment where Ash would dance around on stage in his underwear to a recording of the original Pokemon theme song instead of performing it with the actual Broadway trained musicians on stage. Multiple times throughout the show, they would simply just play assorted clips from the Pokemon animated series, which caused many parents to question what the point of paying for expensive theater tickets even was. At one point, during a scene change, an actor wearing a Psyduck costume would take to the stage, say Psyduck, and then exit on the other side of the stage. While transitions like this may work for a commercial break in traditional television programming, it did not sit well with many stage audiences. In hindsight, it's clear that while Grossfeld and the creative team he had assembled were experts at adapting the Pokemon television program to a Western audience, they lacked experience in both writing their own original stories set in the universe, as well with live action stage plays. It's as if this entire musical was made up of purely the bizarre cultural changes that 4Kids would infamously be remembered for, mostly because, well, that's exactly what this is.
Badges are important. They're a symbol. Like when a teacher gives you a gold star, or your parents give you your own keys to the car, or a guy gives a girl his school ring to wear.
At the very least, children in attendance got to have some whimsy, as the Pokemon props made for the musical were admittedly extremely high quality. These usually came in 3 varieties, including full-body costumes, functional puppets, and just basic statues. The featured pocket monsters included a wide variety of both popular and unpopular creatures, such as Dodrio, Hypno, Victory Bell, as well as over 30 more. One common thing among reviews is at the very least the show had good props and stage production, but it was a mystery for years what actually happened to all of these props after the musical shut down. Or at least it was until 20 years later, where a YouTuber known as Freaktography, who takes videos of abandoned buildings, discovered all of the abandoned props in a Canadian theater, which, by the way, is a theater that the show never actually performed in. Many of the Pokemon props were in pretty poor condition, but others had managed to stand the test of time. A lot of the comments both on this video and from other places on social media are fans who have seen this video and made a pilgrimage to this theater so that they can take home a bit of their childhood. But how the props actually ended up abandoned here or where they are now remains a mystery. Unlike the elaborate Pokemon costumes, the human costumes for the show were pretty simple. The talented cast merely had to recreate the looks of the popular cartoon characters, so they usually just had to put on costumes and wear a wig. But in foreign countries where native actors had darker skin tones than Ash and the gang, large rubber masks were created so that audiences would be able to properly recognize their favorite characters. Although when you look at photos and videos of them, they look absolutely terrifying. And speaking of terrifying, eventually both Delilah and Professor Oak are captured by Giovanni, the ringleader behind the mysterious new Diamond Badge.
I was born to rule the world, and I am going to achieve that goal. Giovanni!
Now, ignoring the fact that Giovanni is already secretly the gym leader for the Earth Badge, so making them the gym leader of the Diamond Badge doesn't make any sense. His new plan for world domination, told through a song which is very clearly a nod to Rhythm Nation, is to conquer the planet with the help of his brand new, original, musical-only Pokemon, Mecha Mewtwo.
Behold, Mecha Mewtwo!
There's no such Pokemon!
I know.
A robotic recreation of the Pokemon movie antagonist. That's right. In a bizarre move, the Pokemon musical is a direct sequel to Pokemon the first movie, which, remember, had only released in theaters the year before. And this only confused parents and children even more because it's not mentioned ever in the advertisements. To make things even worse, what little plot momentum the musical has then screeches to a halt as we enter our second act, and the audience is treated to a seemingly grab bag assortment of random songs, gags, and exposition. 1 minute, Delilah will be explaining to Professor Oak her shameful past, where in high school she dated Giovanni and founded Team Rocket before leaving the mastermind for Ash's father.
As a teenager, I fell in with a bad crowd, and there was this one boy. He started a gang that eventually became Team Rocket.
The boy was Giovanni?
Well, but I didn't stay with him long. I met Ash's father and I put all that behind me.
Does Ash know?
No, and he mustn't.
And then the next minute, Brock will get an entire musical number about how much he is in love with Nurse Joy and Officer Jenny, who, by the way, are not in this musical.
A one-woman man's what I wanna be. Stay by her side so faithfully. I would if I could, but it's just no good, 'cause there's two perfect girls for me. Yay. Jenny, oh Jenny. Woo.
At another point in the musical, Ash's Pokedex comes to life with a chorus of backup dancers simply called Dexter and his Dexettes, only to belt out a song from the To Be a Master album. In fact, many of the plot points in the musical seem specifically written so that they could fit in songs from the already made To Be a Master album, instead of writing original music for the show. And other story moments seemed all around pointless. For example, Jessie, James, and Meowth kidnap Pikachu to bring them to Giovanni, only for Giovanni to give Pikachu back to Ash, explaining that this was all a ploy to lure Ash into battling him for the Diamond Badge, something that Ash already had planned to do from the beginning of the musical. This cycle of out-of-place songs and gags continues until almost every major plot point is wrapped up in the last 5 minutes of the show, where Ash and Pikachu, after failing to defeat Giovanni and Mecha Mewtwo in battle with special effects that I promise were good at the time, are rescued by the original Mewtwo, saving Ash's mom and Professor Oak as well as the day. Ash then gives Misty the Diamond Badge as a belated birthday present. Every Pokemon would then once again take to the stage to perform one last number and close the show out, marking the end to what is possibly one of the most bizarre pieces of media Pokemon has ever created. After scathing critical reviews, Pokemon Live was not considered a success, much to the dismay of Norman Grossfeld and the rest of 4Kids Entertainment. It seems like the show managed to hit a very specific gray area where it wasn't Pokemon enough for Pokemon fans, but it was too Pokemon for people who weren't familiar with the franchise. As I mentioned earlier, plans for a UK tour of the show were eventually cancelled, and what few tickets they did manage to sell were refunded. Many websites and commercials for Pokemon Live mentioned that a professional shot would eventually make its way to airing on TV, as well as sold as DVDs, but these were never made available for purchase or aired. For many years, it was actually impossible to view Pokemon Live until 2016, when Chris Mitchell, a production stage manager for the show, posted the full musical in 7 parts on YouTube. In his description for the video, Chris mentions that while he considers the show an artistic success, it was objectively not a financial one. Perhaps this explains why the Pro Shot, to this day, remains lost media. But from an actual Pokemon fan standpoint, this musical is actually super culturally important, as it's the origin point for a lot of popular Pokemon fan theories. This includes the technically canonship of Ash's mom with Giovanni, and the popular headcanon that Delilah was dating Professor Oak. This is a reference to the fact that while Pokemon Live was touring, the onstage actors for Delilah and Oak were in a relationship. Many people who saw the show reported that Ash's actor had improvised lines referencing this.
Just don't bring my mom home too late. Ash, I'm not, we're not, I haven't, we haven't.
Mecha Mewtwo, on the other hand, outside of a limited edition Pokemon trading card, is thankfully forgotten. Many of the cast and staff that worked on Pokemon Live eventually moved on. But most notably is the onstage actor for James of Team Rocket, Andrew Renault, who would later go on to star in many Broadway musicals, including Hairspray and the Book of Mormon. And then, of course, there's Norman Grossfeld, the father of Pokemon Live. Norman continued his work with 4Kids adapting anime for Western audiences. Eventually though, in 2006, Pokemon had become too big a fish to continue licensing, and the Pokemon Company took over distribution outside of Japan to not only maximize their own profits, but ensure consistency throughout their media, which meant no more jelly donuts. 4Kids continued operating until 2017, where they filed for their second bankruptcy and disbanded. Recently though, in 2025, Grossfeld has re-emerged with his brand new company, Confetti Studios, which seeks to fill the current worldwide demand for Korean content, starting with animation. So it's good to know he's still doing well and up to his classic schemes. Pokemon Live was not a success, and it wasn't even good. But what it is a time capsule. A piece of media that so blatantly captures a brand under metamorphosis. How else would a brand like Pokemon develop its Western identity than through trial and error? For every swing that Pokemon takes that is an unexpected hit, there must be dozens of strikeouts and misses. And in the early 2000s, when the franchise was young and hadn't become the juggernaut of media it is nowadays, they had to take a whole lot of swings. Pokemon Live was just a big one. And hopefully someday they'll dig up the professional shot recording that was never released and let us all see the beauty that is this.
I feel a tango coming on.
Have a damn nice rest of y'all's day.